to my grandmother. I fell asleep, and then Bobby had to gently wake me up into the night and go, "Are you still doing this?" And I'm like, "Ooh." The error is mine. I'm going to apologize right now to everybody. However, my guest needs no introduction. Honestly, one of the coolest dudes I've ever had on the show on the audio. Now he's joining me on the visual for the first time ever. The one and only Bobby Nash. How you doing, man?
I am good. Thanks so much for having me back. This is I had a lot of fun the last time I was here.
I did too. I actually still can't believe it took us that long to do that the last time.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and it's been really a weird year too, because I've gotten used to. I did a lot of podcast interviews in the last year. We've migrated so much to video, so I've put a lot of faces to names that and voices. Has been really wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like, okay, Canada's right now still going through its little round of insanity with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys are slowly opening up. Like Louisiana just opened up today, right? You guys are, based on what I'm seeing, barring anything really, really, really terrifying, July, August looks like the United States is going to be completely out. They're going to be like, you know what? We are post-pandemic. Fuck it. Let's just go.
We hope.
Yeah.
There's we still have a lot of people that aren't vaccinated yet. There's still a lot of people still getting them. So that's still a process. And there's a lot of people that just refuse to get them. So that causes things. So
I'm kind of in. You're gonna kind of hate me because I'm kind of in that category, but
right.
not right. But for just really one reason. Right. Hey, AF Stewart, how you doing? This is AF Stewart, right? AF Stewart. This is Bobby Nash. I've said this before. Like, for me, this is just based on the year I've had. Like from a common, quote unquote, common sense perspective. Strange people I do not trust are offering me experimental drugs. All right, and that sounds really weird, but I mean, the thing is, like we lived in the age of DDT. We lived in the age of other things that came out that didn't do so well in a rush phase. So for me, like remembering this, I'm waiting 2 years because I figure at that point it'll be there. Like it'll be like if there's any real bugs in this, they'll be worked out by then. So, right, and that's kind of like my perspective on it.
Right.
I'm sure some people share that perspective.
I have heard other people say,
yeah,
say much the same. So
yeah. It's not like it's just you just notice this kind of stuff. Like usually the first little bit it's that, but it's also a bit of good news. MIT released the air circulation model of how the virus works. And we could do some things differently if we really want to now, which means like any way you look at it, a degree of control has been found. And now barring anything really unforeseen, right, there's always going to be control. I think COVID, the disease, is here to stay. But COVID,
right? Because the vaccine doesn't get rid of it.
No, and it won't. But what it will, but again, it's never really was about getting rid of the disease. Right. It was about finding control over the disease in some form or fashion.
Same as like a flu shot. I mean,
yeah,
people take the flu shot, because the flu's been around. The flu doesn't gone away. We've just found a way to prevent getting it. So yeah.
They're preventing getting it, or at the very least, if we are getting it, we are going to live. Like no matter how uncomfortable it is, we're going to live through it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the same thing with this, right? There has been a way of control, and in the years to come, I mean, there'll be more treatments that come out of various forms and fashions as well, because it's like anything else. You find one thing, you kind of just wait, and you kind of just do your thing, and like I said, no matter what, like we've hit a normalization period. At least that's where we've hit, and as a result, opening up bit by bit. So
yeah, a lot of stuff here opened back up. There's still some, wear masks and full, but stuff has opened, and and there are still some things where store owners have decided I'm not ready yet.
That's fair.
Have not opened, and it's on a case by case where they're taking it. So I mean, but I know the governor of I live in Georgia, so I know our governor has lifted all.
Well, no, well, you guys didn't really shut down, did you?
We had we were
You
down
guys
for a
shut
short
down?
time.
Because there was like 10 states that never really did shut down, and I thought yours was one of them. So
no, we had shutdowns. Yeah, there was a lot of quarantine in place, and because I was in the middle of doing an acting gig when the quarantine started, and so we stopped and didn't get to finish it. And so they finished it with fewer people.
I'm sorry. I was looking forward to your acting debut, man. Bobby Nash, actor extraordinaire.
Yeah, I do the occasional small role and stuff. This particular thing was a background thing, so it wasn't, I didn't have lines or anything. But we were filming Creepshow on Shudder.
Oh.
I'm one of the Santas in the holiday special, but I'm one of the Santas that's outside because we filmed all the outside stuff. We were going to come back on Monday and film the inside stuff. And between the night we filmed the outside and when we were supposed to come back, that's when the quarantine happened.
Yeah.
And production shut down. So I'm one of the Santas that's running through the snow and the blizzard-like condition outside in a very hot, heavy Santa suit. I'm carrying a sword. We're running through this super winter wonderland. It was almost 90 degrees outside when we filmed this.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, it was very hot. It was so hot. But we had a blast. It was so much fun.
You guys do a Highlander scene with Santa? It's like, there can be only one. And just
I was the only one with a sword.
Oh, okay.
Others there were some with maces. There were 4 that were carrying like a battering ram. There were a lot of different,
Oh, okay.
different weapons, and we were all running and kind of like the Braveheart charge where you're running across the.
I'm sorry. I now have in my head you with the Highlander song. Here we are.
I have a sword around here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Actually, my brother, I don't know where it is, but we actually bought at a convention a replica of the one from Highlander 1 with the McLeod.
Yeah.
That's here somewhere.
Highlander only had one movie. That's just how I'm going to say it. That's how I'm going to keep it. The show was good.
I like the show. Yeah,
the show was good, right? It had its moments here and there where it was kind of meh, but by and large it was good, right? The movie was great. The first one, there's no other movie. There's just no. I say through clenched tears in my eyes, there is no other movie. No.
Well, they kept writing themselves into a corner because every movie they would write, okay, this is the last one. Okay, there's no more, he's the last one. Then you want to do a sequel. Well, if he's the last one, what's he going to do? And then they would have to find
the Highlander Katana. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. No, like as a concept, it was so cool. Like I still think Highlander as a concept is really, really, really cool. It's just one of those things where, if they were to reboot it today, actually, that is a set series you could actually reboot today if you wanted to. I think it would be very, very, very fun, considering what we just went through. I think it would be just a lot. It could be a lot. It would be a fun mentality.
Well, I had heard talk of there was talk of it. The guy that was directing the John Wick movies, I think, was talking about rebooting Highlander, but I don't know, what, if anything, has happened on that. But,
I mean, it's like I wouldn't mind another attempt. Not knocking the Adrian Paul or Christopher Lambert. It's just like a new voice, a new character would be a really cool, fun.
Yeah, it's a great setup. I mean,
No, it's the best kind of thing where it's like you have this really, really, really complex character in a world where immortality isn't what we think it is. I think I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, that made me really, really happy. I'm immortal. I like the fact that I only have so much time on this earth to do all these wonderful things. All right.
Yeah, there was some good storytelling with the flashbacks and stuff like that. And some real good character moments and
Yeah.
how they dealt with people coming in and go, so good stuff there. That's a good movie, and like I said, I do enjoy the series as well.
Yes, that's right. And as far as anything else goes, ladies and gentlemen, there's only a movie and there's only one series.
That's
That's
right.
it. That's it.
Right, no spin-off series, no sequels. No.
No, listen. I cried a little bit. Okay, to be fair, the Amanda series, The Raven, wasn't terrible. It just it well a little how to put this. It felt a little like soon after kind of some things. It just felt a little soon. It wasn't terrible. It just felt a little soon.
Well, also it's been years since I've seen it, but the way I remember it too, my disappointment was that it focused on the guy more than it focused on Amanda.
Yeah, and Amanda, and the thing is, especially with Amanda having an even longer history than than even Duncan did. Like there was so much potential with her, a ton of it, that you could have done some really interesting things. Like the other cool thing about her is she wasn't necessarily always a good person, and that is a very interesting dynamic. Whereas Duncan was more of a straight-laced knight in shining armor kind of type. Amanda was a thief with the heart of gold, but that doesn't mean she didn't have a ruthless streak in her now and then, right?
Yep, yeah, because there were times she would do things in the Highlander series where Duncan wouldn't do things because of his code, and she's like, "Well, I'll do it."
Well, yeah. Well, there's that. I think my favorite example of her is. Okay, my favorite two Amanda episodes from the series are the Queen of Spades, where she won the casino with that card. That was like some of the best. It was actually it was probably the Highlander series when it was going for purely comedic stuff. Sometimes it's really, really hilarious, and that episode was Amanda at her like absolute best, and because she knew he was up to something, and he knew he was screwed because you do not con a con person. So he's like, when I find out, you're dead. Like that's pretty much it. You knew that whole episode. Like that was a big part of it. It was fun, because you're not fooling her. But the other one that I really my favorite episode with her in the series was Methuselah's Gift, when her and Mythos were fighting for the crystal. That was some of the best. That was some of the best like character work for both Amanda and Mythos in themselves, because the reasons for going for it, both of them actually were things you could really understand, and Mythos doing it for someone else because he certainly didn't want it for himself, and Amanda because of her teacher and keeping a legacy alive. So it was like two people you really understood what they were doing. So I mean that's a very interesting character with a lot of history that was never fully tapped, and it was like. But it is what it is. Like that, like I said. So I mean, if you say the Raven is around, I'm not gonna hold it against you. I'm not gonna say like, yay. But I'll be like, okay, okay, I'll let you have that one. Yeah. I've amused you already. We were just talking.
Hey, we took a big left turn like right out of the gate. That's awesome.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know about you. This is just how I see it. Look, right? Neither of us really want to do COVID therapy anymore. Like, right? I think for the most part, people are done, right? And to be honest, sir, I mean, we might not agree on everything, and I'm good with that too. I'm a big enough man to be like, you know what? We agree. We'll do it however we do it. Cool. I have nothing but respect for you. But really, we've made our decisions. We're both grown ass men. Let's talk about the fun stuff.
That's right. Hey, let's face it. I never expected to be talking about Highlander tonight. So.
No. Well, yeah, I mean, it was just right there because it's Sword of Santa is just like, oh my god, that would be like an amazing. And honestly, literally, I just had this image of you with like Queen music in the back of the head, right? The obnoxious part of Princes of the Universe, not even like the good part, but the obnoxious part of it, right? And yeah, folks, if you ever watch the Highlander introduction, that's the really cool part of the song. The song is not their best song by any stretch of the imagination. if you listen to the whole thing, you'll understand. It's not Bohemian Rhapsody. It's just not. It just is not Bohemian Rhapsody. But
yeah, but so few things are.
that is fair.
Yeah.
But it is the same band, so I do hold them to, like, again, you can't always hit your home run. I'm not expecting you to hit a home run every time. But is it too much to ask for? Like, if it gets out, if it leaves the studio, it's like at least a single, right? Like you know, in the baseball analogy. Again, and honestly, just something like from a creative standpoint too, right? You don't like you do the best, you tell the best story you can. But I found this with humor. Like for me, I don't always tell the jokes with humor.
Right.
I actually sometimes go out of my way to tell terrible jokes with humor. I dirty up my line. I dirty it up a little bit when I tell jokes, because the thing is, I am funny, but only to a point. I'm not that good. So what I do to make myself look better is I will take my really good material and I'll lace it with some really, really, really crappy material, right? And all my own. But the thing is, like, if you want to create that like roller coaster effect when you tell a story. Right? You want
absolutely.
Right? So you want Bohemian Rhapsody. And in a perfect world, you'd love to make a dozen Bohemian Rhapsodies. But the truth is, it wouldn't be the same if you could. In fact, Bohemian Rhapsody is such a good song. It's just an amazing combination of circumstances, things. And it was just like, there has to be a best song somewhere on an album. Right? There has to be a best chapter, a best joke, a best something, right? And you can dirty it, and honestly, you can accentuate it more by dirtying up your story, quote unquote, dirtying it up with some bad stuff in there, right? Because you again, what's the goal? You're accentuating certain things in the story. So
well, it's just like if you ate a very like a meal from a 5-star restaurant every day. After a while, you just want a hamburger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's right. And you need like that steak is great. Yeah, you need a little burger. You need some fries sometimes. Sometimes you want ice cream, because we all like ice cream. Actually, to be fair, if we did just a horrible ice cream style album, I don't think anybody would complain. Because if everybody would be like, I don't like ice cream, you just wouldn't believe them. You'd be like, nah, you're lying to me. What did I ever do to you? Because there's not too many souls alive that don't like ice cream. Right? So, actually, I don't know anyone that doesn't like ice cream. I know people who can't have it.
Yeah.
But I don't know anyone that actually dislikes ice cream.
You know, I can't say I do either.
Yeah. Flavor? Okay, sure. But you dislike it completely? See, AF Stuart, you like ice cream. She likes
ice cream.
Yeah, of course you like ice cream. Who doesn't like ice cream? Right? If you actually, and AF, I'm going to ask you the same question. If someone actually came up to you and said, I don't like ice cream, would you believe them? Because I almost feel like that's one of those universal things.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's something that it's ingrained in us because as children, it's kind of like,
oh yeah, exactly. No
ice cream. I mean, they said, I grew up. There was a guy drove through in a van with music playing every day, and that meant ice cream time. Which is weird. You would think, a stranger coming through the neighborhood with a van, send the kids out.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just fun. I meant it. Like, there's still that little part of me when I see these ice cream trucks kind of roll by. It's like, it would look really terrible if I came in and tried to Grand Theft Auto the car, just because I just want all of the ice cream. And I'm like, I have become a horrible person in my old age. Oh well, I live with it. I live with it.
Yeah,
but
I can't say much. We had milkshakes today, so I can't say anything.
No, Again, no one in their right mind is going to say, look, you might have a personal favorite that I don't. Maybe you like the tiger stripe ice cream, right? It's not my thing, but some people like it, right? Don't matter. It's still ice cream.
Yeah.
Right? Like, much respect. I mean, not everybody likes vanilla or chocolate. That's fine, right? I mean, it's made for generally everybody, but that's, again, evergreen doesn't mean everybody likes it either. It just means that a lot of people like it. That's all, right? I mean, we kind of shoot the we kind of shoot for the best with when we find something that's truly evergreen. It feels like a very evergreen thing, but you're never gonna please everybody and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's ice cream or you're writing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just can't do it. There's someone out there that reads your stuff, Bobby, and they cringe inwardly on the inside every time they read your stuff. And I know their tears bring you a certain kind of joy.
Well, and as I actually said this on a podcast last night, it's like, as much as I like to think that everything I write is gold, I know better. And yeah, it's not for everybody. Everybody likes what they like, and so
it isn't. I mean, was that a shock? Like, did that hurt the head when you realized that a little bit? Because I had this moment, like, oh my gosh, the world is bigger than me, and then my head literally shrunk a size. I mean, like, it was a moment for us all. Like, it's like, the world isn't just about me. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I am not the center of the universe. It was a very sad realization.
It was sad. Like, but you had your moment. You're like, I'm a better person for it. Like a little tear that rolls down. It's like that's it, ego. You got your tear. Let's move on with life, right? But I am feeling really silly tonight. I am sorry.
It's all right. It's that post nap,
Yeah. No, it was just like, I feel incredibly silly right now, and I feel like in the best possible way. It's like, I'm sorry, but on one hand, I'm sorry, buddy. On the other hand, you're having fun at least, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I will ask this. When this was starting, did you struggle with your creativity when it started, or did someone like, you know what, I'm just going to dig right in?
I didn't have trouble like doing the work.
Yeah.
Like coming up with stories. It took me a while to find, what's the way I'm trying to say this? It took me a while to find my rhythm, to find the way I do it, to find my style. My early stuff, you can very much see the influences. The biggest problem I had early on was getting other people to like what I did, or getting, because when I started, doing it yourself was not really an option. It was not considered
cool
like it is now. Yeah, it's
oh my god.
So if you did that sort of thing, it's because you, quote unquote, weren't good enough to get hired by a real publisher. I mean, that's the way that people thought, back
20 years ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Right now, that is not even close to the case. Yes.
So, a lot of the early parts of me trying to become a writer, there was a lot of time spent trying to convince publishers to look at my stuff. So there was a lot of submitting. There was a lot of, sending off query letters. And again, these are pre-internet. I'm old. It's pre-internet days. So you type this stuff up. You put it in an envelope. You went to the post office. You mailed it.
So good, sir. You don't look a day over 39. I swear.
Oh, thank you.
Take it from me. Take it from me.
Thank you.
All right.
That took 10 years right off.
Oh, yeah, right? Like it's done. Bang! It's like, oh my God, thank gosh.
I look at more now that the hair has started going gray.
You've earned it. I mean, life, let's be honest. I mean, life kicks us all in the butt here and there, right? And so if you get gray hair as a result of life kicking you in the butt, it's okay. No one's going to hold that against you, right?
Yeah, because it's gray up here. It's white right here.
Yes.
And really, it's this part doesn't bother me. It's this the beard turning gray bothered the crap out of me. Yeah.
Why? If you don't mind my asking, why?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it did. Like when my hair because my hair started going gray on the sides first.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't bother me at all. Like this up here, it's not completely gray, but it's it's starting to go.
You're in that transition period. Where right.
But the beard, man, even when it first started, it'd be one or two white hairs, and it would just drive me nuts. So they got to go, And I would always have one. I have a scar right here, and there would always be the hair that grew through the scar would be very thick, a very, very thick white hair, and it would always be about that long. Like it
Oh,
would like it would not be there one day, and the next day I've got a white hair that long, and I couldn't pluck it. I had to cut it because it was so thick because it grew through the scar,
wow.
and that one used to bug the crap out of me. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was, but
Interesting. So for me, right? I know as much hair as I have, right? The part that I realize I have getting a little older. If you look at I go to the very top, it's like it's a little thinner up here than it used to be. No, it's not. Like I have a full head of hair. It's not like it's gonna go bald anytime soon.
right.
But you do notice it's thinner, right? It's like one day this is all gonna be gone. Oh no.
Well, and the last year too, because we haven't been going to get haircuts and stuff as often. Like I just got this haircut a little over a week ago. So before that, I had like hair out to here, and like if I pulled it down, it was like down to here.
Yeah. Like that's where mine is right now. I actually made a promise to myself I'd grow it during the pandemic, but like I said, Canada is I feel we're gonna get out of it eventually.
Yeah.
Our leaders are insane, and I'm going to leave it at that.
I think ours are right there with you. But I had 2 haircuts in the last year. That's how few I've had, and it's just
So I just realized like it's one of those things. Like I can see it in my hair. Like my hair is a little like it's not like huge, but you can look. It's like there are points. If I look hard enough, I'm gonna actually look and see I might have a little bit of gray in there now, which I did not have when I actually was younger. Now it's not like major yet, but they're about like when I as I turned 40, right? It's like, oh, I'm not gonna have the perfectly like brown hair anymore, right? I'm gonna get older, but I'm looking forward to it because honestly, but Bob, I got to level with you. I think you got this impression when we started. I'm not really someone that really gives a crap that much to begin with.
Yeah, it's just hair.
It's just hair, right? But more importantly, like even in my attitude in life, I mean, we talk Scoopy Highlander. I'm actually going to talk Valiant Comics with you because I know you're a Valiant Comics fan like I am. Before it's all said and done, you're going to show our age, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to talk about that showing our age, that's showing our age more than anything else. Hello, Josh, and hello, Meredith. Come on down. Yeah, but like I barely give a shit now. Like I mean, more gray hair is like permission now to start doing things like I've always wanted to, like unlimited recess and like.
Yeah, like I said, it's just hair. Like if it all fell out tomorrow, I would just be bald. Yeah. So but because I've had my hair colored once in my life, and that was for a movie role, where they had to. Actually, it was another creep show thing. In season 1, there's an episode where called Skin Crawlers, where they put the leeches that suck fat out of people. And I am Mr. Simmons before, so they had to make me and the other guy look alike. And so they made my hair and all match his. So that was.
So on that note, though, I guess I should ask this question then. When did you get the acting bug?
Years ago. I started out just doing background stuff. Just because I was writing full time, and it was like, hey, they'll pay you. You can go. Yeah, I was very curious about the movie and TV business.
Oh yeah, of course.
And it's so I did it a few times just for fun and a little extra money, but I really got into it and got to enjoying the process. So I've done a few like low budget movies or small roles where I could do more than just background, and that's been fun. And I learned so much from watching how the process works, being on set, seeing how things, not only how they do things, but why they do things. And that's been fun. So I've gotten a good education. I've met a lot of incredible people who are, doing the same thing, that are, because, a lot of times when you see movies or TV shows where, say, there's a bunch of cops, most of those are real off-duty police officers.
Sure.
Because they They know what they're doing. Or if it's EMT people, most of it's real EMT people. So I've got to meet people who have really interesting day jobs. And as a result, as a writer, finding out how people do their jobs, is fascinating research. So I've got to talk with FBI agents, and Secret Service agents, and SWAT team guys, nurses, doctors, people in bands, people who make costumes, all this stuff. So I've got to meet a lot of people with really interesting jobs, and it's fascinating to hear what they do.
Yeah, no, so for me, the movie in business, like actually being on a set, is one part warehousing, one part creative.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what it really is. Because like half the day you're building or unbuilding sets. Yeah. That's half of it. Right?
It's also too. There's this. People have this image of how glamorous it is, and yeah, it's glamorous when you see them at the Oscars or on the red carpet. But when you're working, you're usually in a dark warehouse,
yeah,
with dust everywhere, and because they light the sets, they don't light anything else, So everybody's walking around behind the sets with their phone flashlights on so they can see where they're going, and there's no heat, there's no air because the microphones pick those up. So you're either freezing to death or you're sweating like crazy. And it's a lot of stand over there and wait.
Oh, yeah.
And, there's a lot of weight. There's a lot of weight that goes into it. And especially if you're doing a movie wait times are a lot longer than TV. Because, movies generally have a longer, time to film. TV moves a little faster. So I do enjoy the TV process more because it seems to go a lot
quicker. It moves a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
I learned an awful lot of respect for actors and actresses in particular because how to put this, like I did as part of the underground film festival, like a 48-hour underground film festival. So our script isn't going to be very good. It just no matter how what. Anyway, we did really good with what the time we had. Like you can do a pretty good 5-10 minute, but let's be honest, our lines aren't going to necessarily be the best. Then you see what an actor and actress can bring to a role. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wow, you made our words good. I'm not quite sure how you did it, but you made our words good. And then you look at some of the stuff on TV. Now you're like, you made that work. God bless you. And sometimes, it's like, oh, I don't blame you. There's no way I could have said that either.
Well, there's also one of the things it's one of those things in your head. It seems obvious. But especially when you're doing lines and you're performing and there's multiple people doing things, you don't just have to remember what you're doing. You've got to know what everybody else is doing. Because when this person passes, you've got to go do your bit. And so you have to so you can't just sit there and run your line. You have to go, oh, wait, their line is. And so you have to know what everybody else is doing.
Yep.
Because especially when you're doing stuff where you're crossing each other, or you're passing off, stuff to a person, or you step into a scene, do something, step out. You've got to make sure all that lines up, know your marks, all that stuff. And so it's fun. It's a bit intense at times because if one person screws up, you've screwed up everybody.
Well, there is that, but there's also, sometimes ad-libbing can be a lot of fun too. It's like,
mm-hmm.
Oh God, we got 20 seconds to just do something, and it can be amazing.
I did one. There was a movie. I only did 2 acting things last year, the Creepshow thing, and I did this other movie that has not been announced, so I can't really say much about it. But we were filming on the movie, and I go to the director. I was like, "Can I change this line?" He goes, "What are you, some kind of like author or something?" He knew I was, but it was just it's like, "Oh yeah, fine, whatever." And so I was just like, well, it's just redundant. Let me fix, And but yeah, it's fun. It's the learning the lines is a little bit nerve wracking for me. I'm always afraid I'm going to screw it up, but it's fun. I have a good time doing it, and I haven't had any bad experiences, so that's always nice.
That's always nice. It's for you. It sounds like a fun hobby you're very passionate about.
Right.
Right.
Right. There's no $10 million movie riding on me being good. I'm just I'm a small cog.
Now that you say that in like 2 weeks, Bobby Nash starring in The $10 Million Man. Right? I'll be like, yeah. Hey, you know what? I look at it like this. Christopher Lee at 90 years old cut his first ever like rock song.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know, man. You never really, like doing things leads somewhere. It always does. It's just going out there and just doing stuff, right? The biggest thing I learned doing the show is I just ask, because you never know what you're gonna get, because it's very surprising / humbling that the like people that you admire say yes, right? And even if they say no, it's like, well, at least you know, right? So I mean, but the important thing I think in life I've learned is all the things you really want in life are right there to be had, and sometimes all it really takes is to ask, and you get
and
the
really
ask.
the worst thing you get is a no.
Yeah.
It's not like no and they cut your arm off.
It's just totally respectful.
Yeah.
Would you go steady with me? No, but thank you. Like, thank you. Too. Right, and I move on. Or hey, listen, I want this job at Warner Brothers. Thank you, no. Hey, I want this. I may or may not have tried some of these things. I'm just saying there might be some real experience in some of this. Right.
Hey, let's face it. Being an author or being creative in any field, being an author is all about, hey, can I write this? You're constantly asking a publisher, can I do this? We
are in the rejection business, even as an indie or a crowdfunder where like, yes, do you want this, or no, don't you want this?
Right.
That's what it comes down to. Like an indie author is actually in some ways the ballsiest of them all, because it's like, I don't know if people are going to want this. What am I doing? Right. And everybody,
we spend our life going, do you want to buy a book?
You want to buy my book? Because my book is awesome. Now, and to be fair, though, most of us don't do it like that. Most of us kind of go like this. I'm using a CD. Hold my cell phone. You want to buy this? Really, I worked really, really hard at this.
I've worked really hard to get out of doing it this way.
Yeah, I know. But a lot of people like I honestly, like, I did I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and I did this thing called First Friday. So I learned how, like, eye contact's huge. Like, oh no, Bobby has disappeared, miraculously so. And here he comes. He's back.
There we go.
Hey. So as I was about to say before, the internet said, nope, out. Right.
The internet did not want to buy our books.
Screw you, internet. The eye contact is super important. I actually find, like, you treat people like people. Like, it's not even about necessarily getting the sale right then and there. But that you're approachable, friendly, kind, warm. People remember that stuff.
Well, and you're the creative business, and again, all creative business, I think, you're not just selling that CD. I'm not just selling books. You're selling a bit of me, or I'm selling a bit of an experience. And so sometimes that's it. I mean, I have sold books, especially at conventions, where people have come up and say, I see you at these things all the time. Let me get a book. There must be something to your work if you're at all these conventions, and they'll try a book, or, I want a panel, and I heard you talking on the panel and you said some things I found interesting, and I thought I'd come get one of your books. So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing. I mean, a lot of the stuff we do is in the is part of the business of selling our stuff, but we're not always actively selling it. I'm not, we don't spend our time beating customers over the head with buy my book.
I actually knew this one author friend of mine, God bless him, that was his shtick. He would do his thing, that he'd do a really good pitch, but someone said no. Like, enough people said no. You literally saw a switch go off, and I'm like, oh no, this is not what you do, dude. No, just be cool, be calm, be reasonable.
Because too, that you never know too when somebody sees your stuff, say today, like somebody who's watching this who's never heard of me, hears me talking, doesn't think a thing about it, has no interest in my books, but 2 weeks later, they see me on something else. It may be 6 months down the road where they go, oh, yeah, that guy, he keeps talking about that same book. You know, maybe I should try that. So
Yeah.
things like that happen. And so we're not, a big chunk of my job and a big chunk of your job, what you do, is getting the word out.
Yes.
It's not, it's not so much as that you're actively selling. It's just putting the information out there where people can find it.
I'm actually going to do, I actually am going to slightly disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I am actively selling. I'm just not coming at this like a salesman.
Right.
That's the difference. I put out that the show's coming on, and then I put on a show.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's you, and then somebody else, and then somebody else will come on to these shows. And I do that, but here's the thing. I've done over 100 of these kind of shows. I've done over 550 podcasts. At this point, people are looking at my number and going, what the hell? Right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I've never really stopped. Right? And what I've found is that my numbers have been... So when I started, I had like 2 people listening to my show. When I was about to quit, when the Aurora went up to about 10 people per episode would always just download my show. Now I'm at the point where I'm starting to see hundreds of people, like
Mm-hmm.
50, hundreds of people. When the show comes out, that download or listen to the show. I'm getting bigger each and every time I'm doing it. It's one of those like momentum things. I'm just slowly, and considering the fact in my case in particular, I literally started out as nobody. I don't have a celebrity name. I didn't have any of that stuff. All I did was make an ass of myself and long enough on the air that people thought I was good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, there's something to be said about longevity too.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
one of the biggest things as a writer I discovered early on, nobody wants to be the first person to publish you because they don't know if you're going to finish. That's really, so if you can write and finish something, that goes a long way toward impressing a publisher or in some cases an audience because, okay, this is a guy that's going to finish. Okay. They're looking at you. They're like, okay, this is a guy that's going to put out content on a regular basis. So you've in essence, the show becomes your resume.
Absolutely. No.
Yeah.
So my publication history page on my webpage, it's got all the stuff I've done in the last year, right? Not my books, just all the articles I've written for different places. And what happens is like, again, the more we are a business where what we have done builds up to where we're going. Mm-hmm. And right, our backlist are like huge. As the podcast is about to evolve even more so I invest in better equipment, things of that nature to do a better sound, better quality of show. Right? Because I call me an egomaniac, but I think my content's pretty damn good. Right? Mm-hmm. So but now it's about taking that extra steps for investment and go and let people spread the word out accordingly. Right? Hey, he's a good experience. Hey, he's this. Hey, he's that. And just keep going and you keep rolling with it. Right? It's one of those situations in life where how do I put this? It adds up. And we are a business of everything we do, even though we don't always have to see the payoff right away. It catches up to us in so many other ways. I've been interviewed a lot more this year than I have ever had in the past, partly because of the situation we're in, but also in part because I've come to the point on this where I've hit what I call a rolling wave of momentum because I've just been constantly doing it. And eventually it starts snowballing all upon its own. Now, as I release more books, like I have 3 more books I want to release this year. So I get to that one, and I release more of them on top of the 5 I already have. Now, suddenly, my paycheck as a writer will probably go up because that's just the nature of the business. I've proven I can finish a project. I have an incredibly big mouth, right? And
that helps if you're going to be a podcaster.
Yeah, but even as a writer, it helps because it lets you stand out in like the best kind of like. It's not your books are ultimately have to be good. That's what's going to keep them coming back. But to get them to make that, like, writing is unique in the sense that I'm not sure what I'm going to get. Like, In the Wind looks phenomenal.
Thank you.
I have no idea if it's good.
I hope so.
I hope so, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm taking a chance. Like, I'm going to put my time into a Bobby Nash book. I don't know what I'm going to get the first time.
Right.
Now,
and as a small press publisher, because I do some of my own, like In the Wind and Snow, I publish those myself, and so I'm technically a small business, and those are things that I'm constantly thinking about. Is how can people who've never heard of me, how do you get them to try something? And as a business, I've tried a few things to see if those work. Like a big one for me is making the books available free to read on Kindle Unlimited.
Yes.
Which, for pennies, you can try one of my books. Hell, you can try all of them, Excuse me. Actually, I had that last week. Someone went through in the span of a week through Kindle Unlimited and read all of my books that I published, which is cool. So they got the experience, And so trying things like that, trying sales, trying, putting up a 99-cent ebook here and there, things like that. So we're always trying different things to get people to sample, the book, without dropping, $4.99 for an ebook or $3.99 or whatever it is, or $10 for a paperback or whatever. Try it for something at a smaller price where they're willing to try it.
So basically what you're saying is we're kind of like evil drug dealers. Here's the first batch.
Here's the first taste.
Here, it's first taste. If you like it, there's more.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna cost you.
I do. I did one of the books. I did. I have a Patreon page, and I do serialized books there. So while I'm working on the book, I'll put up a chapter a week for them. So for anybody that wants to just come in and pay the $1, even if they just stay 1 month, can read all of the chapters that I've put up to that point. And so you get the instant feedback, which is nice, but it's also, it kind of keeps me focused and on deadline and getting them done. But it's also a way to keep stuff out there for people to try, to sample, to be interested in, and same way, the first chapter of a new book is usually always free. So whether you're on Patreon or not, you can read it. If you want to come back and see what happens in chapter 2, it'll cost you $1.
Right. And the tutorials, the mustache. It's going to cost you.
It's going to cost you $1.
That's right.
I mean, it's not a lot of money. I'm cheap, but
It's interesting. Like so as a freelancer, this is an interesting balance for me. You want to be cheap enough to be accessible, but not cheap enough to seem cheap.
Right.
It's a really interesting dynamic because the freelancer thing I learned really early on. The way you charge as a freelancer has to command a certain degree of respect, or you won't get the work or the clients you want. Your clients can be a nightmare. So you have to set a rate that good people will pay for it, but not so high that no one's gonna buy it. Right? It's a really tricky balance. I think even as an author, it's a really tricky balance because your work's worth more than $5.
Right. And you also have to know too, when you go in to talk about those deals, what publisher am I talking to? Okay, this is a smaller publisher than this one. Publisher A is a big publisher, publisher B is a small publisher. I might go in with a slightly smaller number for the smaller publisher. Yeah. Because I know they can't match with the, Yeah. But these things,
Yeah. Oh yeah. You have to do your research, right? You have to do your research with that. It's just a really, really fine line. Like I decided, this was the question I really had. What is 10,000 words worth? I concluded that 10,000 words on average is worth $1 on average. So if I'm doing a $2.99 book on Amazon, the sweet spots, I think, for the max value for you is 30,000 words, right? Which is an interesting.
That's what it's weird. That's what I do with with the books that I publish.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do them like In the Wind or the Snow books. They're 30,000. Oops, they're 30,000 word novellas. Not super huge. Where the ebook can be $2.99. The paper book can
Yeah,
be
it doesn't. It doesn't.
$8.
You don't feel bad about that price point for
Right.
that because right. You don't feel bad. Now, if you did like an 80,000 word book, I kind of think to myself, well, maybe I'll go to $3.99. Maybe I'll cut
I
right.
actually I like Evil Ways and Deadly Games, and those are 100,000 words. Excuse me, and the ebooks are $4.99.
Yeah,
Because what I discovered was, and I had a publisher actually explain this to me, that $2.99 and $4.99 are the sweet spots. People get weird about $3.99.
yes.
That $3.99 is like they'll pay $4.99, no problem, but $3.99 they go, ugh, that's too much. It's
Yeah,
weird.
it feels
And
like it feels odd. It does feel
yeah,
odd when you look at the number. Like $2.99 does not feel odd. It feels like. But again, I always keep that in mind. Like the first a 30,000, a 30 to 50,000. We're gonna say 30, 40. Probably should be in the $2.99 range. That's actually I think a reasonable price for a book. But once you break 50 and you're getting into like bigger stuff, especially in the 70, 80,000 word range, you're like, probably should charge more.
yeah.
And I think there's a confidence issue with a lot of authors, and sometimes it's like, yeah, you really should charge it because
Right, because and yeah, because as an audience, you have to realize too, out of that $2.99, I don't get $2.99. You
no,
know, Amazon's going to take a cut, or whatever for place you're selling that ebook, they're going to take a cut,
absolutely,
or your book. So that's and if you print through Amazon, more so with paper than with ebooks, but say someone goes to the Barnes and Noble website and buys my book through Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble contacts Amazon. Amazon prints it. So both Amazon and Barnes and Noble take a cut of my book. So that my piece of that pie gets a lot smaller than if you
yeah,
just bought it from Amazon.
absolutely,
But it's still fine though, because you want people buying those books. So, so wherever they're comfortable getting it, I'm fine with it. But it's just, yeah, people have to understand that if we're selling an ebook for $2.99, we're not pocketing that $2.99. We're lucky to get about half of it, usually a little less.
yeah. It depends on your deal. I mean,
Yeah,
I find like you go exclusive, you get a little bit
you get a
better.
little bit better with the exclusives. Yeah.
Yeah, you get a little bit better with it.
Mm.
I'm gonna be going wide with some things this year because I haven't really done the wide experience yet, and I want to give some things a try. I'm science fiction, so like it made sense for me to be exclusive just because science fiction and like thriller stuff do really well with Amazon by itself. It's like I don't like the monster, but the monster sometimes serves me.
Well, it was one of those things. I mean, I for a while had my stuff at Smashwords had them, and I had them on Kobo, and I mean, you name it, I had them out there, thinking using the shotgun approach. But what I realized was still 99.9% of my sales are Amazon.
So you might as well
So
say that. Yeah,
if
yeah.
right, so if I go exclusive, my royalty's better. So yeah, it's
Yeah, you got. I mean, and for everybody, it's different. Like, there are definitely advantages to a wide model, and you have to, and actually, you can market both accordingly, right? You can actually go back and forth between them, right? Like, I am going to be doing some whites. Like, at my next book, I'm writing and I'm illustrating. I don't know if you've seen any of my drawings in the last little bit, but I've been posting. I do drinking draws now.
right.
All right. I've been drawing with some really good people. I've gotten better. I'm not going to say I'm good yet, but I've gotten better. And I'm actually illustrating my first sequentials in my next book.
Very nice. I actually have a idea for I doodle. I'm not good. I don't think of myself good enough to do like comics or anything, but I do the drawings on the envelopes, and I do sketch cards for people and things like that. Had this idea. I love the old storybooks. Well, they used to be book and records when I were a kid, but they're square, and they're usually the story, but there's like a art that just kind of fills the page. And I have this idea in my head of doing one of those. I've got it plotted. I've just got to sit down and do it.
It's okay. I mean, it's a challenge to look at. wrapping up the previous topic just real quick. But again, it's the more books you make, the more there's a model with this. The more books you make, the more books you have out there, the better your earnings are as a writer. It doesn't matter how well it does on the bestseller list. It's just the fact that you have a quantity of books that people can invest in. It when I sell a book, my backlist gets better every single time because people start looking for more of my stuff. Now, as I get to book 6, book 7, and book 8, I'll have 8 books. One is 1 completed series, 1 with a sequel in it, and then just regular books I can turn out now on with these series. I'm going to see how that works out based on what I've seen. Like, I may not be like a millionaire or jillionaire. But then again, you never know either. I mean, it can catch on too. But
you never know who's going to discover it or what word of mouth is going to.
Yeah, absolutely. But basically, what I'm going to be curious about when I get to next year with this is where my earnings are as a writer, because at that point I will have set series up for everything, and everything will feel like a series that has been invested in, and I'll be very curious to kind of see how I'll be very curious to see how it's going, how it's moving, how it's evolving, because at that point, like from what I've been told, basically with a lot of what I'm doing is, when you're going to succeed, you're going to succeed, like you're going to start seeing signs of growth is when you actually have series going. And because then you can see like who your fan base is, and you can grow it, because now people have a place where they can splurge.
Right. Plus, when you're doing it yourself, one of the advantages of having my own indie publishing company for some of the stuff, I'm still promoting and selling books that came out 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Those books, you're right, you may not have made the bestseller list the week it came out, but I still sell a handful of copies each week of certain books. So there's a constant revenue stream. So you have to adapt your marketing. You can't just promote the new stuff, which is what a lot of publishers do. The bigger publishers do. They promote the new stuff, and once it's out, it's out. And we, as a publisher, I am still pushing Evil Ways, which was my first published novel.
Well, actually, the traditional publishers, one of the best places they love going back to is classic books. Why is that? Because it has traction. To Kill a Mockingbird has been out for decades.
Yeah.
It still sells well.
Yeah.
To this day. When you have something that sells, it's really easy to push it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When something is considered a literary classic, plus books like that are on school reading lists, you've got an audience that's gonna have to buy it.
Yes, exactly.
Every year, and I'm not saying that's bad, but I mean, there's a lot of books they keep in print, or they new versions of, or they make movies of, so that gives a reason to put it back in print, and
absolutely.
So, but as a publisher of my stuff, my goal is to keep it out there so people can find it. So if someone picks up, say, book 6 of the Snow series, and they go, "Ooh, I like this. Is there more?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, the other 5, go get them." They're out there and easy to find.
Like, excellent.
Yeah.
Will join. So we talked about this. You've been doing indies for a long time. So can I call you like the godfather of indies? Can we get you like a monster?
Oh no, I'm sure there are people doing it much better than me.
It's not. We were talking sales, right? It's not about better. Better is not what the goal here, right? It's the fact is, straight up, for as long as I've been on the internet, we have been aware of each other, right? Because I found you a long time ago, thanks to Tommy, right? And again, we've been cordial for a very long time. Last year, we actually opened the floodgates. Like, oh my gosh, you're actually awesome, right? But we've known each other for a very long time, and you've been, again, even before it was really cool, you had done some incredible things already, right? So and the fact is, I mean, if it wasn't for guys like you, the indie movement wouldn't be what it was today. So, and I say that like I with with honest, sincere like thank you, because
Mm.
it was the fact is you dealt with all the ridicule, you dealt with all the ups and downs,
Yeah, there
right?
were.
And
Yeah,
and the thing is, no one's laughing at you anymore. In fact, a
yeah,
lot of the people are like, I kicked myself because you were a visionary. So you are like one of the early visionaries
yeah.
for
There
like,
was, yeah, because there was a short time there where when when self-publishing was starting to become a more acceptable alternative. There were a few indie publishers and indie writers that kind of started up around the same time, and yeah, so a lot of us got to know each other because we were in the trench there together, and I love that community too, because what I found was it wasn't me, like, me and Tommy and Derek and all, we're all in the trench, Ron and Rob and all of us, where it wasn't me versus them. It wasn't
no,
them versus, it was like, hey, I've got a problem. I don't know how to do this. And one of them would go, have you tried this? And so there was a lot of sharing of information. There was a lot of helping people. There was a lot of camaraderie. There was a lot of, cheerleading. Cheerleading is very important,
yes, it is.
seeing one of your friends have success, and and giving them an attaboy or a way to go or whatever, that's very important for people's well-being and wanting to how they know that they feel like they've made it. Someone is there and saying something. So yeah, it's I've made it a I've made it a point since excuse me, my early days of always trying to be open. So if someone comes up with a question, that I would answer it,
Yeah,
and to not, because I remember before I signed the contract for Evil Ways, I remember getting the contract the week before a big convention. So I was at the convention, and I remember going around and talking to other authors who were there and saying, asking them about this company. And I literally had, several get away from me, and I had one guy tell me, "Why should I help you? You're my competition. Why should I help you?" And I swore at that point that if anyone ever asked anything, I would answer it if I knew the answer. And because I didn't want to be that, I didn't want to become that. I didn't want to be that the grumpy old get off my lawn, I'm turning into that in real life, but as a writer, I didn't want to become that.
well.
And
Like to be fair, the one thing is that is long. The big challenge of getting older. This is what I've learned. Is you still gotta be open enough to listen. As long
mm,
as you're open enough to listen, you can be the get off my lawn guy all you want. In fact, the people will cheer for you just a little bit every time you
mhm.
do it. But you just gotta be open enough to listen every once in a while. It's like, hey, Bobby, have you considered this? Eh, eh,
Well, I've been there, or
yeah,
or but yeah, and we still do that. I mean,
yeah,
there's there I know writers and publishers and people that if I know a handful of them, or more, that if I ever get into I'm stuck, or I just don't know how to solve this problem, there are some I can call, and some of it's those same guys. I can call them up or email them or text them and go, "Man, can you help me through this, or can you talk me off this ledge?" Or, "Man, you won't believe I screwed up big time. I agreed to do this, and this is kicking my butt." Blah blah blah. I mean,
yeah,
so
yeah.
there are people that can talk you off those ledges, and yeah,
It's like I did this. Why did I agree to this? And they look at the contract. Yeah, I don't know why you agreed to this,
yeah,
but here you go, buddy.
right.
Here's the thing.
Because I mean, the way it worked, because I'm doing my own stuff and I do stuff for publishers.
Oh yeah,
I'm scheduling work for 6 months to a year out.
yeah,
And so they ask me now, "Do you want to do this?" "Oh yeah, that sounds great." And I'm excited. A year from now, when I get started on it, it's like, why did I say yes to this? But you still do it. But sometimes
right.
that does happen, is
Yeah.
the excitement wanes over the time that you get
Well,
to it.
actually, what I find tends to happen with me is this: I've had such a good time doing another project prior to this, or another good, or I'm on a group somewhere else, and you're like, you got to move. You're like, but I'm doing so good right now. Damn
Well,
it.
well, I have people ask a lot why I still work for some other publishers. You know, why I'm not doing everything myself. And as a publisher, I am a one man band. You know, I am the publisher, the chief bottle washer, the accountant, the marketing. I'm it. Now, I have people that I have to help with covers or editing and things like that. But as the company as a whole is me, and when I'm doing production, when I'm doing press releases, when I'm doing anything that's not writing, I'm not writing. And so writing still is is the big part of the job. So doing stuff for other publishers sometimes is a way to do things, hand it to somebody and go on to the next thing, let them do production.
I think for you though, I think there's another reason too why you would go like you would do with a publisher, and it's this too. So I ask myself this question now when I consider working with a publisher: what can they do for me that I'm not doing on my own?
Right. Well, and because there are reasons. I mean,
oh sure.
Sometimes it's like they have the license for a character I would like to write. Bobby, you want to write a Green Hornet story? Sure. Then we start talking, and it's like, great, it pays this much, and I'm like, great, it's a short story, great, that pays the phone bill this month.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's a business important decision too. Plus, it's like, oh my god, I get to write the Green Hornet, sometimes we do things and sometimes you don't do everything for the money.
No.
I mean, we do things for the money, but we don't do everything for the money. I've taken on some smaller projects because it's my buddy's book,
Absolutely.
And you want to, it's a cool idea. Your friend's doing it. You like your friends. You want to help your friend out. You've got space in the schedule. Sure, let's do it. So that happens. So there's multiple reasons of doing stuff for other people. There's also perception. If me as a publisher, or I as a publisher, boy, that's good English right there. If I as a publisher put out 15 books in a year that I wrote, it's just me, people look at that and go, they can't be good if he's putting out that many. It's a perception.
That depends on genre, though, on that one.
Well, true. But it is a perception issue at times. But if I do some stuff for other publishers, you never know when they're going to come out. It's weird because 2 or 3 you'll go months with nothing coming out, and then 3 different publishers will put out a book the same week, and you're in all 3 of them.
Yeah, it's weird that way. It's also weird. Like the freelance weird thing too is sometimes how your pay scale works. Like there was 1 week last year I had 7 days in paychecks. It was just like it just had worked out that way. It's just like that's what happened. Then it'd be like a month before I saw anything else ever again. But it did it right. But it was like you looked at that. It's like this is the weird. Like why can't every day be payday? And actually, for 1 week, every day was payday. It's like sweet, right?
Yeah. And then sometimes you get those checks that you look at it and you go, the paper that's printed on costs more than the amount on this check.
Yes. And then sometimes you look at the check, it's like I can't believe they gave me that much for that, and in a good way. Like it's like okay. I'm not arguing. It's just like,
oh man, my tax people hate to see me coming because it's like I've got all these, there's money from all these different places, and they're just like, oh god.
Well, no. So they hate you. They hate you if you come late. I have one friend of mine. She always tells stories about her accountant. It'll be like July when she files her taxes, right? And the accountant's just like, I hate you so much right now because you just doubled my work. Last year, she finally filed her taxes on time, and they actually looked at her. Who are you? What have you done, my friend? Because that's right. But I mean, I think there is one other reason to do things for publishers that I think it's a very important reason. That's not you didn't mention is also sometimes it's reaching a different audience.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is like so. I'm a hybrid too. I've been traditionally published, and I've been doing my own stuff. My own stuff appeals to me for a couple of reasons. Number one, it builds intellectual property capital, so now I can also sell it in a bunch of other areas as well. on top of just the books, which I'm sure like businessman Bobby will completely agree with that, right? Um, the other part though is it gives me more credibility. I can finish a project. If I finish projects on my own, that actually adds to my advantage even for more traditional publishers, because what happens is traditional publishers will look at you and be like, holy shit, you'll get stuff done. Oh, I love you. I love you already. I don't even need to read your stuff. I
Oh,
love you.
you promote your stuff.
Yeah, I
That's a point in your
really
favor.
love you. I
Yeah.
really love you. And they're looking at your resume of work in the sense of what you've already learned on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Two, number three, and this is the other thing I've learned. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I mentioned this on an interview last night. I'd love to be a tour superstar. That's still like one of those like little like dream things to do. But I'm also of this mindset too, and because I've gotten some awards, I've gotten some recognition for what I do. It's great. It's awesome to have that recognition. But you've got to realize too that there's always more to do, and that whatever recognition you got, whatever you're doing, won't last forever. You have to constantly keep moving. So building your own platform up yourself. Like the cool thing about this podcast for me, regardless of how my writing career goes, I've carved a nice niche for myself already. People know who I am. I mean, people like you actually want to come on my show, which is like awesome, right? Right. So it's one of those things where I recognize the fact that I've established my niche. So when I go into new places, however long I'm staying, it gives me a chance to reach out to new people.
Right.
And then when I walk away, because inevitably, again, it's business. A publisher is going to look at what's best for them, and I'm going to look at what's best for me. And sometimes that's going to mean this. And it's not like a hard feeling thing, because we might come back. But sometimes it's going to be like, you know what? I need to do this. You need to do it.
Right. And there's early in my career, I used to be afraid to say no when they said, you want to write something. And I've learned that that's a powerful thing to be able to say, I can't do this, or I don't have time to do that, or I don't want to do that, or, just say no. You can say no to projects, and it doesn't mean they'll never talk to you again. But another thing I look at when I deal with publishers is also distribution. You said reaching new audience, and that's part of the same thing, but distribution. Doing it myself, I'm limited to what I can do through Amazon because of my budget. I can't afford to get them in bookstores, as often. Whereas if I do something for a publisher over here that's got some bookstore distribution, that book might end up in a bookstore. The indie side of me, the businessman that runs an indie publisher, I don't pay attention to bookstores. They're not gonna buy anything I'm publishing through Amazon. They're not gonna stock it. So I don't spend effort promoting to the bookstores, hey, I've got a book, you should put it in the store. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my money. I go straight toward readers. I try to find where readers are, and I do my promotion directly to readers. The writer in me wants to go into Barnes and Noble and have like a shelf full of my books. But the realist, the business guy knows that's not going to happen. And so, but going through other publishers gives you that distribution option. So if you go with someone that's, that are getting in those places, that's helpful. Sometimes it's working with someone that's in that book, if you're doing an anthology. Sometimes it's like, our anchor author is this person, and you're like, man, I'm a fan. I want to, I'd love to be in the book with that person. And so there are different reasons like that because you hope that the anchor author, that the bigger name author in the book, will lead to more people seeing the book, and then therefore hopefully seeing my story and going, if they like it, then go, ooh, here's his website. Let me go check him out.
But I will say this: there's one thing I could see Bobby Nash's books being in at Barnes and Noble. I realize that maybe Bobby Nash, the indie author, may not always hit the bookstore. That all said, Bobby Nash, the traditionally published author,
Right.
might, right?
Right.
And it's not just an ego thing. Don't get me wrong, there is ego in it, sure, but it's more than that too. It's a different audience.
Right. Right. And
Right.
and again, it's one of those things too. I know that my self-published stuff won't that's so I don't focus it there. But yeah, if I work for, if I sell something to Random House, yes, I know there's a bookstore component there, and I can reach out to bookstores to do signing events and things like that to push the books.
So will you wear the Santa Claus suit with the sword and be like a Highlander at a bookstore?
I'd have to write something that fit the need of, but yeah.
I think people would pop. They saw Santa with the sword. It's like, oh, who's coming down now?
Oh. Now, if someone wants to hire me to write a Highlander novel,
I think we've done a really good. I think I've done a really good job building you up as like the Highlander
guy,
publisher. I think I've done a great job this whole episode of doing that.
Yeah.
And at the very least, I at least have given you something to laugh about.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, like I said, it's and I write some media tie-in fiction, so it's not 100. There's nobody doing Highlander fiction now. I was just having this conversation last week. Nancy Holder, she and I write Domino Lady together quite frequently, and we were talking about Highlander, and she was like, "I wrote my first tie-in book was a Highlander novel," and so I was like, "Oh yeah, you did write that." So
how was it? And how was it? She's like,
she's like, it was an experience. I'm like, enough said.
No. When they say that, here's what you do: you see the tears, and then at that point, you go to the liquor store, you buy her. In my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and doing a tie-in book, writing characters that some corporation owns. Mm-hmm. There is dealing with publishers, there are hurdles as a creator. They're not necessarily bad hurdles, but there's things you have to do.
Yeah.
You've got to get the pitch approved. You've got to get you've got to get edited and all these things. When you're doing a tie-in fiction, on top of all that, you got to do the exact same stuff for the people that own it, who may not be creative people. And so that sometimes happens where it's like, they're like, well, you can't, because there's a lot of, you can't do this. And there's like a list of, you can't do any of this. And so you have to play in, that sandbox. Yeah.
So, in all fairness to them, they have invested and created a certain prestige with the character, right? So, listen, you can't kill Duncan MacLeod in this novel. You just can't do it. And it's like,
I had a friend that told me that said, don't blow up. You can't blow up Cleveland.
Yes.
We might need it later.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing. It's like, you can't, like if you're writing a Star Trek novel, you can't kill Spock unless you find a way for him to be alive and standing on the bridge of the Enterprise in your final chapter.
Yeah.
Just like the TV show. You've got to put the toys back on the bridge exactly how you found them.
Because they're not your toys. They're somebody else's toys.
Right. They're somebody else's. Right. And you have to know that they have a long-term vested interest in the IP, and my job is just to tell a story with somebody else's toys, and then I have to give them back. I have no, you don't own it, you don't have any ownership in it, but it is fun to go and play with those characters, especially if it's characters you like,
Oh yeah.
I'm currently writing a Lone Ranger short story, which has been a lot of fun, but also quite nerve-wracking. Yeah, because I watched it as a kid, and I was a fan as a kid. I hadn't seen them in years, so recently I've started rewatching old Lone Rangers to kind of get back in the headspace of, because we're doing the TV version, the Clayton Moore, black and white, him and Tonto roaming yeah. And there's things, and I had this with the Green Hornet also, because we were doing the TV show version of Green Hornet, so I sat down and watched all the Green Hornet episodes. And there's a lot of, as a kid, watching them once a week, you didn't notice these things as much. But my God, there's a lot of recycled content
Yes.
in these shows. Like half an episode of Green Hornet is the recycled driving shots. You know, same with Batman. You know, the '60s Batman. You know, 10 minutes out of every episode is him driving out of the cave, driving through Gotham City. You know,
My other favorite, my favorite part from the animated series is the him going up walls.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot. That's almost all recycled stuff.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's like Spider-Man. He's got to go across the street, but there's a 5-minute segment of him swinging through the city. But the Lone Ranger surprised me. There is so much recycled footage of the Lone Ranger and Tonto riding.
Oh yeah.
You know, their horses across, and I'm like, wow, it's just it. I notice it now, especially watching them back to back to back to back to back to back.
Totally.
You know, but it's still fun to get into those characters' heads, and man, the plots are simple. You know,
but a good story doesn't need to be that complicated,
right?
It just needs to be like, can be engaging. Green Hornet, like, you just realized looking back on that how cool Bruce Lee really was. You're like,
yep.
My God, you're so much better than he is. It's not even close, right? It's why they did.
So there's, and it's one of those things as a writer too. You have to. You're walking a little bit of a tightrope because, like I said, you've got the Bible. You can do this. You can't do that. We're doing the TV show, so the tropes that are in every episode of the TV show had to be in our stories. You know, let's roll Kato, the flipping the car, all that had to be there. And so, and that's fun. I mean, we, you know, because we're used to that, you know, but it also, you know, because there were a couple of writers I talked with that were like, I want to tell this story and they won't let me. They, you know, and it's like, because that's outside of the scope of what, you know, they want to do. And even mine, the biggest note I had back on mine, because my story revolved around a villain who is a collector. And he's been hired. This other villain has hired him to take out the Green Hornet and Kato, because the Green Hornet pretended to be a villain, and he was muscling in on her, you know, her operation. So she hires a guy, a hitman, to kill the Green Hornet, and this hitman is a collector.
Yeah.
And he sees the Black Beauty, and he goes, "I'll kill him, but the car is mine." And so he goes through this whole intricate thing of stealing the car.
Yes.
And I had more notes about the guy stealing the car than anything else I did in the story, because they wanted to make sure that stealing the Black Beauty cannot be easy.
Yeah, and, you know, in fairness, that gives you a lot to play with, though, because basically what you're saying is like, okay, we don't want like anybody can do this,
right?
Fair enough. You know what? That's actually fun. In fact, if you're a collector, that would be part of the appeal of it too, because it's like, this isn't an easy task.
Right.
Am I right? This is actually something that's going to require some thought and planning, and you can actually build up the collector as a villain this way.
Yeah, and it makes because as a writer you have to be more creative.
Yeah, because
you can't just say he steals the car. You've got to come up with a more interesting way of how he did it. So a lot of fun there.
Yeah, so like you turn the car into a damsel about to be kidnapped, and always it's fighting as he slowly like suffocates or knocks her out and takes her away, right? I mean, there are some fun things you can do with that, and you know what? And that's fair. You know what? That's the cool thing about how sometimes having limitations set on you is they're not always a bad thing. It's more like, okay, you can basically, this is what they said. You can still do this. We actually think this is cool, but these are the rules we have to play by. Okay.
Yeah. And that's smart. And I'm on the other side of that now, because I've got other writers writing snow stories now for this snow shorts line I'm doing, where they're doing like short stories that we're putting out. And so now I'm on the other end of it going, oh wait, you can't do that. You know, I want to have this. No, can't do that. That I've already got this story planned, and that, so yeah, I get it. It's, you've got to do what's best for the character in the books, and it's not always easy.
it's also protecting your it's protecting your investment, and that's not like comics. Okay, my dream comic book project is okay. There's two of them. one I think you'll pop for, and which is this Magnus Robot Fighter.
Very nice.
Especially today, I think that concept really, really can sing.
Mm-hmm.
Love to do it. Also knowing that there are some things I can't play with. Right?
Yep.
Right. There's just some things I can't play with. I really dug. So the Medal of War went too long in the Valiant run, but I actually really dug the first year of Magnus when he's actually looking at the other side of the fact that the robots he's killing are actually technically alive. And it added such a layer to Magnus that I thought it was one of the best things about the whole Valiant run. The Medal of War, unfortunately, I thought wrecked a lot of the dimension with that world and that universe, because yeah, it's cool that an very old bad guy is being re-upped and reimagined and that's cool on one hand, but on the other hand, it took away from this really intricate world that was already built. They took 4000 AD and they actually upped the stakes, because now it's like, okay, what if you don't have this? What if you don't have that? What if the robots are actually the good guys? Which I thought was such a neat twist, right, to what had already existed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, comics are weird, especially if you're working on, and I say weird in a good way, but I mean I know people that write comics for like Marvel and DC and stuff like that, and they're one of the biggest things I hear is because it's such a corporate run thing, they have to stop their story to do the crossover, and like this is planned, and got a crossover. Okay, we killed my momentum. Now let's jumpstart my story back, and you're doing along the story, and then it's next crossover, and you don't have as much control, especially now because the companies are with the movies especially, they're paying more attention to what stories are being told and how they're being told, and it's a very much a corporate, this character is going to be in a movie next year. We've got to move them to the forefront a bit, or and so as a writer, it's a challenge for you to overcome that, or to go, okay, I need to make this, I need to tell a story with this character. What's a good character story I can do with that? And so it's a nice challenge for us to come up with different ways of doing things.
So I can think of so for me, I always think of Dwayne McDuffie, Justice League run, because that guy, oh my god, like every month it seemed like they took away from him. I'm going to do this. Nope, can't do that. We're taking that character from you. Okay, I'll do this. Nope, can't do that. We're making them bad. Okay, I'll do this. He wasn't upset. He never was upset, or anything. Like, he understood the business of it. He was just like, okay.
Well, I'm reminded of when I was reading in the 80s. Marvel was not doing really well in the 80s. The Fantastic Four was about to get canceled. Daredevil was about to get canceled. Thor was about to get canceled. And I used those three because those turned around right quick. So they hired these creators who were artists, and these artists go, I've always wanted to write. And they're like, okay, we'll let you write and draw it. We're canceling the book anyway. We don't care what you do. We're canceling the book anyway. So Frank Miller gets on Daredevil, Walt Simonson gets on Thor, and John Byrne gets on the Fantastic Four. Within a few months, those are three of their best-selling titles.
Yeah.
Because they've let them do whatever they wanted. So now the books are popular, and now editorials coming and going, nope, you can't do that. It's like, wait, I've been doing it. And they're like, we can't do that anymore. This book's popular now. We've got to get a control on it. So now you can't do this. You can't do that. So then those creators leave, and the books go back downhill because they,
they were smart, but they were smart with Walt Simonson. They kind of let him go for a long time before they reined him.
Yeah, but even he, there was stuff he had planned. Like they had even put out ads for a couple of storylines that then they turned around later and said, no, you can't do that. And
I know.
So.
Oh no! It's there is that nature of that business, but I like for me, like again, same thing. Like going in, I know I'm only going to be on this property for however long it's going to be this property, and I'm going to make the most of my time. Hopefully, they let me know when they're going to wreck my boat so that I can actually, plan around certain things, because you can actually make a crossover fun, right? And
Oh, sure.
add to your story in a really, really interesting way. A couple of my favorite stuff. There was way back when Peter David was doing Aquaman. This was the Genesis crossover when the dark parademons invaded. Were invading Earth. Well, he still told his story around the invasion. He didn't care. It's like, you know what? Wait. So I gotta have parademons, and this chaos is going to continue elsewhere, and this is over. Okay, but I can still tell a bit of my story in there. So he actually was able to like sneak in bits about Dolphin and Arthur's new relationship, and Tempest, and kind of turns what happened with Dolphin and that kind of stuff. And it was like, okay, so I got my little character moments inside these giant crossovers anyway. Okay, cool, fun. Peter Davis is kind of underrated. So, well, he is and he isn't. People know Peter David for Hulk, and they go, yeah, but it's his other stuff. I find that he had little kernels of genius throughout. Right, that were truly impressive to watch. Yep, I'm a comic nerd. It's true. Always true. But
right. But as a creator though, going in that if you're handed Aquaman, that's DC and Warner Brothers own Aquaman.
Oh yeah.
So you have to because I meet people all the time that want to write comics, and one thing I hear a lot is people going, well, I don't like the way they do it. If I was writing the character, we would do this and this and I was like, you would do that if the publisher lets you do that. See, that's the thing you got to work at. You don't own those characters.
Well, that's the thing you got to come to terms with, right? Your job as a creative, like, there's one problem with being in comics: you may not get your act 3. That's the one thing you have to accept going into the jobs. Like act 1, I think traditional comics are coming to this realization a little bit more, right? Especially when you look at like Japanese light novels or manga across the ocean. There's usually an act 1, an act 2, and act 3. Now you can have all kinds of like gaps in between act 2 and act 3, or act 1 and act 2. You can do all kinds of stuff, and if you ever heard of a show called Bleach or a show called Fairy Tale, you'll know that there's a lot of things that are in between act 1 and act 2 and act 3. But there is a forward motion with the story, and at some point the story has to end. Comics in North America usually get stuck somewhere in act 2. And I know going in there, if I'm doing, let's do the big one, Batman. Bruce Wayne is going to be Batman when I walk away. Doesn't matter what happens in the middle, right? Bruce Wayne is going to be Batman when I walk away.
And you have to know that at some point down the line, someone is going to tell a story that undoes what you did.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, see, this is why I think personally, this is where comics kind of have to come to terms with. It would be so much better if they marketed it like this. Okay, right now, Harley Quinn's a book I'm really excited about. I'm a fan of Riley Rossmo, and I'm friends with him. And I'm a big fan of Stephanie Phillips, and it's like 2 of my favorite creators in comics are working on this one book. I'm just in, right? But here's the thing: I know this, right? Somewhere down the road, Stephanie Phillips and Riley are going to step away from this book, and someone else is going to come in and do a completely different thing. I think it would be a lot better if they actually did this: Harley Quinn by Phillips and Rossmo. That way, you just do you can keep the continuity within that. Their story, what they're telling. You give a walk-off point for everybody and a walk-on point for someone else to come in, right? And they can build it, like you can build bridging material between creative runs too. It happens all the time. But I think that's when comics get to that point, I almost feel like they have properties and movies, and everything that's done has to kind of turn accordingly. But you can still do an act 1, act 2, act 3 story. And I think those act 1, act 2, act 3 stories would do a lot better even for their IP. That they have those stories in there, right? And also, I don't bitch about continuity anymore, because here's what happens, right? Hey, this happened way back here. No, 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 no. That was the story as told by John Byrne, or the story as told by Peter David, or the story as told by Stephanie Phillips, or the story. And that's their story. Because here's the great thing: it's an act 1, 2, 3. I have my full story. I got my payoff. I don't care what happens. Or if I want to stick around, cool. I'll care about that. It's almost like now I've Doctor Who'd all my comics now, because now it's like what if Stephanie Phillips is the new writer for Harley Quinn, and the next person is Gail C. Moon, right? It's like, okay, Gail's going to tell a different story than Stephanie's going to, but I got Stephanie's story, so if I don't want to read Gail's story, I don't have to, right? Or if it's Harley Quinn, Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor, they're the most notorious. They told a great story, right? I can read any of their things and be incredibly happy with it, and leave it at that point. And I think that's the best way, where the fans win and the companies win, because at that point it's not about now you don't have to worry about continuity. You just say, well, that was their story, the story they told, and now this is a new story being told by this team, and you don't have to. And right, I think is the next logical step for North American comics. Hey, Jagtress, how you doing? Right. So, but that's kind of how I see it. So, Jag, this is Bobby Nash. Bobby's awesome. He also wears a Santa suit and Highlanders occasionally as a hobby. You missed that conversation, but it's all good. And he's laughing at me now, or he's like, or the joke's just getting old at this point. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, so you missed our conversation about Highlander earlier.
Yeah.
That's all good. We're talking about continuity in comics right now, and basically that's what I think comics should do. If comics did that, I think you'd kill most of the continuity gaps would just go away.
Yeah, I don't think the continuity will ever go away, just because there's so many people that are, about it. But they do kind of do something like that. I mean, I've noticed the trend of, like, a creative team comes on a book, they restarted at number 1. When that team leaves, the next team comes on, they restarted at number 1.
And that's definitely a step in that direction.
So,
yeah. Oh, okay. The internet has thrown Bobby off yet again. Yes, you will watch the vlog. Continue on.
Oh, there we go.
The internet threw you off again, Bobby. Bad internet.
But it's like, yeah, so it does seem like there's a bit, and I think a lot of it is because the trade business is so different now. There's a lot of people that don't read the monthlies. Like these days, I read more trades than I do regular, monthly comics. And so picking up the trades, you can get more of a story in one book, it wraps up. If it don't wrap up the whole story, it wraps up at least a plot line.
So I'm at this interesting point where I have lots of friends in the comics community doing Kickstarters. So I find I get like more sophisticated stories through Kickstarter than I do through the big too. Now, I am a comic whore. Ninja Turtles and Green Lantern are my jam, and they will always be my jam for as long as they exist. It's just the way it is. I'm a grown ass man. I acknowledge my biases there. Doesn't mean it's good. Sometimes it's really, really bad, and I like there's tears in my eyes.
You are allowed to like what you like.
No, I am. But sometimes you know as well as I do. Like you've had it, those runs where you love the character so much, you're crying at the what you're reading right now, because you're like, they're looking good again someday. Oh God, right? We all have those nightmare runs. It's nothing I'm reading right now, but I've definitely been there. So I'm at 5 monthly books. I think I'm going to stay at 5 monthly books, because I'd rather support my Kickstarter, because I find like Kickstarter, that philosophy of what I'm doing in terms of Act 1s, Act 2s, Act 3s, I see that so much more there right now, and so I'm getting better stories for the most part. I mean, it's sometimes, and I think that's what, like, comics have become like publishing, in the sense where traditional publishing is a niche now. Whereas, and it's been that way for books for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But comics have kind of hit that magical wall too. And I think it's actually not a bad thing because I think it might save the industry because Kickstarter, Indiegogo, crowdfunding has definitely opened so many amazing doors for a lot of great creators out there. Like a book I'm getting that I'm really excited to be getting sometime this month or next month is Naira X. Bill Maz's Naira X. It's like it's an old concept, but it's Bill, and I got that, and it's like I'm so excited. I get like, and that's you know, that's a very like thing, but I can do that because I do have that crowdfunding option now. So I'm now I'm still going to support my comic shop. I support Another Dimension. How you doing? But I'm also looking at it now more like, but I'm also going to be crowdfunding more because I'm that kind of comic whore.
Well, and you find stuff that's interesting to you too. I mean,
yeah,
you know, the topic. You know, a lot of times because I go in and out of runs. You know, I don't. It's been a long time since I've been with a book that I've been with for years and years and years, and now it's what's interesting to me. You know, because hey, I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan. Believe me, I know about runs that are hard. You know, there are periods where it's not easy.
Like, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
I was there. Some of those runs I tried them too.
It's not always easy being a Fantastic Four fan, and so. But yeah, so I find myself coming in, leaving and coming back, and depending on the story they're telling or who's doing the story, or you know, I'll try something. Just they're doing something different, I'll give it a try. Ooh, excuse me, sorry. And so yeah, so I experiment a little bit with what's out there, and I like all kinds of comics. It doesn't have to be a superhero thing for me. I enjoy a good crime comic or stuff like that. It's just lots of fun.
Do you know what I'm a sucker for? Sometimes, at least sometimes, when Garth Ennis does an old pulp character, that he is so good at those. Like I cannot like Johnny Red. So like that actually. So Jag is one of my beta readers sometimes for some of my stuff. My novel with the parallel universe Dragon Saver came from Johnny Red. That's when I first was introduced to the Russian women that fly and kick all kinds of ass during World War II, the Night Witches. It's like it gave me an idea to do a story along that line because I thought that was such a cool concept.
I wrote a Night Witch story for an anthology that oddly enough came out today.
Nice. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's like a full circle thing there.
Well, no, because they're such a cool group. Like honestly, you look at their history, it's like, wow, Russian women are such badasses. And they really are.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that they were badass pilots, but the fact that what they did was they flew into, there's our target, turn the engine off.
Because they had like the crappy. They were a nightmare for the Germans because they couldn't see them.
Right, and because they would turn off the engines. They couldn't see them because they were made out of cheap material, and they would just kind of glide in because they were light. But then that's how they got their name, the Night Witches, because of the whistling sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the wind going through the wood, and all the cracks in their planes, and they would glide over, drop their bombs, turn the engine back on, and fly away.
And they won.
Yes, they
won. Like they did not lose. The Germans were terrified of that whistle. Yeah. They were terrified of it.
And then sadly, as so often happens, the war ends. They say, "Okay, you guys can go back to cooking and cleaning and working on the farm." And
I would not want to have that conversation with those women.
Yeah, but it was just like, it was just like they, okay, we don't need you to be pilots anymore. Go back to doing woman's work. Yeah, I imagine there were some very unhappy, and actually, that's part of my story deals with that because this book I'm in, Occupied Pulp, takes place at the very end of hostilities have ended in World War II, but there's still a few things going on, and so I have one of the Night Witches goes, "This is going to be my last chance to kill this guy that tortured me and a few of the others a few months back. We got away, but so did he. Well, the war's over, they're going to take my plane away from me. This is my last chance to get revenge. And so she goes after the guy. And so that was a lot of fun to write. She, great. The character I used was a fictional character,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
but it was, just the writing in that world of what they did and how they did it and how their planes worked was so much fun.
For me, I use them as an influence. They are in my story, because I basically took the Knights of the Round and I corrupted all of them. I made them all bad guys, and they are going to all these different worlds and they are fighting the Knights. Right, in different universes, they have different tools. One, they have dinosaurs. One, they have like the classic wooden planes. One, they have and the Uber story is it's all the same war in every reality. It's the same battle every single time. Simply because, but they are a force of need and desperation that save those that don't. And that's, I think, because that's what they were. That's what they were. They were the last bastion they were the last hope of a country that was getting their butts handed to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they pulled through. It's an amazing story, and it's like and it's just like, so like that's a really cool, like for me it's like, although I'm doing like science fiction weird wacky stuff with them, the fact of the matter is, in principle, it was really, really capable women defending their home from an outside invasion, and
in dangerous conditions too. Not just the war, but I mean their planes were not.
Oh, their planes were terrible.
Yeah,
their planes
they weren't being given the best of the best equipment they had.
No. And the fact is, they had more victories. They had more victories than practically any other part of the Russian army. Like practically, they're also a lesson though, and I think this is something I realized something with our culture and the Western world. I don't want to be a hero in the Western world. And the reason why I don't want to be a hero in the Western world is because heroes do not get the respect they deserve.
No.
Right? Whether they're troops, or whether they're quote unquote essential workers, or whether they're I look at the thank our essential workers, and I cannot help but think about the fact that 20 years ago we were thinking police officers were being heroes, and I look at where we've gone with that today. It's like, I do not put me in that boat, because I know where this is going. This is not going to go well for me, and especially in the United States, the way the veterans of your country, the people that have served you the most, they do not get the justice they deserve, and they do not get the thanks and the respect they deserve for it. And I recognize, like, I don't want to be a hero, because honestly, we do not know what to do with them in real life.
Yeah, my dad has said, my dad was in Vietnam, and he wears the Vietnam veteran hat all the time. And so he gets people now all the time thanking him. And he's like, I can't, when I came home, this would have been nice when I came home.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything now.
Yeah.
It
still does a little. I mean, I think
it means, sure, but it's not the same. It's not
the same. Yeah, it's like, we're being actively spit on when we came back, and it's just it's weird how how humanity treats humanity. It's not.
No, I actually know it's the people who want to serve. I have found that are always been mistreated the most, and that's something in this time. It's the closest thing to COVID period we've had the whole time. In this time, that I have realized over and over and over again, we do not know how to be thankful to people who serve. The truth, like, you really want to thank an essential worker today, help fight for a pay raise.
Right. I see. I do. all these companies now are spending fortunes on signs that say heroes
Yeah.
work here. I'd rather you, instead of putting that sign up, take that money and
Yeah, that would, like
give it to the.
that is the like we talked about this a little bit, but in terms of writing, in terms of pricing your work and valuing your work, one of the things it's respect. And the fact is, I mean, okay, I just went back to the workforce to just rebuild some income. I'm technically an essential worker right now. I don't want your thanks. I'd rather be compensated for the work I'm doing, fairly and justly. That would be a bigger thank you to me than anything else that could be done. I don't want to sign. Write a letter to your leaders. Ask for better. Ask for better for the people that are out there. Right? That would go a lot farther. That's a bigger thank you to me and anyone that truly is essential in this time than anything else. Because I look at nurses. Okay, tough as nails. There's some of the nice. Again, they serve people nonstop, and they did it well before the pandemic, and they're going to do it long after. Right? If you truly want them appreciated right now, write to your congressman, write to your leader, ask them to get compensated for it because they deserve it. Right? So there's my sobering COVID therapy talk for the rest of the day. But sir, I think I have a good time. We always have a good time. We always
I've had a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah.
We talked about subjects I did not expect to talk about. It's been
great. We just went all over the place, right?
Yeah.
We went all over the place, which is the best thing. It's cool you got a night. Honestly, when this goes off, actually, the anthology that came out. Why don't you talk about that real quick?
Sure. It's called Occupied Pulp. It is put out by Flinch Books. I mean, it literally just went on sale today. I don't even have a copy yet.
Yeah.
If you go to we were posting it all over social media right before I got on with you, and it's that new. It came out like an hour, right? It came out an hour before we started, and it's out on Amazon. It's in paperback and ebook, and it's there's 5 or 6 stories in there, and actually I can probably pull up the thing and read it here. Where is it here? It's called Occupied Pulp. It features stories by Will Murray. Will's writing a lot of the Doc Savage stuff these days.
Yeah.
William Patrick Maynard, Patricia Gilliam, me, Justin Bell, and John Bruning are all contributing. Have contributed stories to it. It's got a wonderful pulpy looking cover by Adam Shaw of a guy up against the busted out, what little's left of the wall, and he's there with the gun and the trench coat and the hand, so it's a lot of fun. But like I said, it's all stories that take place right as the war is ending. So it's kind of like if actually it kind of reminded me a little bit of the last episode of MASH, where they're listening on the radio as the Korean War comes to an end, and you can hear the guns and the bombs and the mortars firing. And then they all stop. It gets real silent. The guy on the radio says, "There you go. The war's over. That's the sound of peace." And then they go back to work because they still have to clean all that stuff up. The war is officially over for the countries involved, but the people on the ground still have work to do.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's kind of how I approached this was, yes, there's been a ceasefire. The war is over. But we're still the guys on the ground still have stuff to do, or in my case, the Night Witch in the air still has one piece of unfinished business to take care of.
Yeah.
And so so it was fun to play. It was fun to do. I haven't read any of the other guys' stories yet. Like I said, it's that new, but I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody's done, and we've all picked different areas of the world to set our stories in. And I write a lot of pulp stuff, so I've spent a lot of time working in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. I've written in those eras quite extensively. So it's always fun to revisit. There's something like because with my stuff like Snow and In the Wind and stuff like that, those are modern day thrillers where people have cell phones and all that stuff. I can write these stories in the 40s. It's a little freeing because you're writing it without the trappings. There is no cell phone. There is no easy communication. People can get lost really easily, by like throwing the transponder out of the airplane and flying off. And so it's fun to sometimes play in those eras where it can just be about the character doing stuff without having to work around technology.
Yeah, which is always kind of fun. My favorite era personally is the 30s because it's for a couple of reasons. It quietly was a renaissance. A lot of people don't realize that, but it's a quietly renaissance. A lot of the big thinkers that came about in the 40s were doing all kinds of cool things in the 30s. They really, really were. And it was a different era. The hope for the future part, I think then we'll do a full-fledged promo of why Bobby Nash is awesome. And it has nothing to do with the sword either. Nothing to do with the sword.
Nothing to do with the sword.
Nothing. But
sorry, I get fidgety. I keep having to move around.
No, it's all good, man. Listen. We've talked for nearly 2 hours. Dude, like seriously, when this is all over and I go to conventions again with you, me and you, I whether it's a carbonated or non-carbonated beverage of some kind, we definitely got to hang out just for shits and giggles because I think I think you're a cool dude. That's just me.
I do miss hanging out with people at cons. It's been almost a year and a half.
Yeah, but you will, and you know this. Yeah, second half of this year, that chance will start to come again. Now, it may not be quite up to full snuff, and probably till next year, but it will start to happen this year.
Sure. Yeah, I've already booked for later in the year, some small local stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, like that's like you guys aren't shutting down again, no matter what. I think you're going to once you're open again, and that's just the way it's going to be. And
well, I have a few other factors that have changed the way I take care of my dad and and my brother would stay with him when I would, but my brother passed away last year, and so I don't have anyone to stay with my dad. So 3 and 4 day cons are not in the cards as much right now because
that's fair.
But I've worked out some deals with some to go in and do a day. Go in and do some panels, some talk, hang out, do a day, come home. And that's helped. So I mean, and so later in the year I have some 1 day stuff. Dragon Con is usually the biggie of the year.
Yeah, and Dragon Con won't be the same this year. Now Dragon Con won't be the same this year. Next year it will be. Well, again, one good thing about what did happen though, this is actually a great reset in some ways because now it's like you can look back and you can be a lot more picky and choosy. But also, you can be a little bolder too. I was caught in this route I was really comfortable with, and this doesn't exist anymore. But what does exist now, and what have I always wanted to do?
Well, I was actually. It's weird how the timing of it happened because I had planned for 2020 to be a year I did fewer cons, just to kind of step back and take because I was burning myself out. Because I was doing between cons and other events, I was doing 2 to 3, sometimes 4 events a month. So I was gone on the road, a lot. And it was really just, I was so burned out. So the plan was for 2020 to kind of ease off a little bit, take some time off, hit it hard again in 2021. And obviously, I took more time off last year than I had intended to because there were no cons. But we did learn some interesting things. We started doing virtual cons, virtual panels at cons. And so, and even this year, cons that I can't go to in person, they're still going to do some virtual cons where like I can talk to them from my house and into a panel room, So there's a lot of we've learned things. And like you said, I can now go, okay, not which con, because I miss all the cons. I always love the cons, but I can look at it objectively from a business standpoint.
Yes.
Which cons, because you know, some cons you don't make money at, some you do, you know. And so having that year off, I was able to kind of lean back and look at it from a distance and go, man, these are the cons I need to focus on. Or in some cases, it was like, you're doing this kind of con and it's not doing anything for your business. Maybe don't do 3 days. Maybe see if they'll let you come one day, or just don't do these particular cons. Or instead of doing conventions, do some of these book expos. Or there, you know, so it gave me a chance from a business standpoint to look at it and go, you know, what's best for me. And,
yeah. Well, I look at it from this perspective. I think although I do think virtual will take a step back a little bit. I think we're all going to be happy at that. It's going to be a step back. The option that it's there is honestly a good thing.
Well, I think that, and it's just what I think.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be more used as a precursor and a postscript to the cons.
Yeah.
Start getting people interested in the cons with some panels beforehand.
Yeah. There's definitely advertisement opportunities there.
Mm-hmm.
I also think guests of honor who can't make it, like, okay, like here's a thought that I think a con, like if I'm a con, I'm thinking about this. Getting Stephen King to a convention comes with some issues.
Mm-hmm.
With his fame. His fame is a blessing and a curse at the same time. But maybe you could talk him into spending an hour of his day.
Right.
To talk
from his living room. Yeah.
Yeah. He'd be happy with that. He's not getting tickled by fans who are following him for no reason everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I have noticed it too, like in the last year and a half, 2 years, I've noticed they've been using it for things like TV show reunions or movie cast reunions, where you can't get all those people in the same physical building at the same time. But like you said, they can all take an hour in their kitchen and make it happen.
Exactly. It's not like, in one way, access is better. Now, don't get me wrong. At least for the first year when things are back, I'm not going to want anything to do with Zoom. Like, nothing, right? I'm going to have nothing to do with it. But at the same, I mean, I'll be doing the show, but I'm like, for me, one of my little goals will be now get a video camera again and see about filming people in person, because there's something about that. I've enjoyed this conversation, but there is from both a business and personal perspective. Wouldn't it be so cool if we could actually do this in person? Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah, I miss one-on-one conversations with people. Yeah. Now I will say, having this video chat option. Imagine if this pandemic had happened in 1982. No internet, no video conferencing, long distance fees.
Do you want a dark thought? You want a really, really dark thought here?
Okay.
Here's the dark thought. If this was 1982, this wouldn't be a pandemic.
Well, true, but I mean, I'm just saying that. You know.
No. I get in terms of concept. I think like that's my dark thought. Like, although I do think we're gonna look back at some things and go, we were idiots, right? I also think there's another part of me. It's like, this technology made it possible to possibly mitigate some things that may have been a much bigger disaster. On the one hand. On the other hand, I'm not sure this would be a pandemic in any other era, because.
Well, but I was just saying more in general that had something like this happen where people were being quarantined. And, and you didn't have these options that we have to talk to people, and Because
Oh, it
it's
was.
certainly, if me and you were doing this just over the phone, it would cost us a fortune because we live in two
Oh,
different countries.
it'd be the old days. Like I remember, like those giant like things have changed and like the old
Hmm.
paywalls, and then one of us would be like, I would be me putting the wait, quarter time, tink, tink, and I would keep it in the interview because I think that's
Sure. Yeah.
part of the personality of the interview at that point. It would be, but it would be such a different experience for sure. Like
Hmm.
it would be such a different thing. The one advantage to this time is I can literally talk to anybody, and I
Yeah.
have. And I mean, listen, I got to spend 2 hours with Bobby Nash.
Hey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. The Godfather.
It's been great because I've talked with I've done these things with people in multiple countries.
Yeah,
And then in some cases I've like just had a chance to like talk to friends,
yeah.
was it's like, man, I haven't seen you in so long. And it's like, well, hop on Zoom, And it's like we can at least look at each other. So it's been wonderful. I've loved the virtual panels, and I see potential for those to continue on, not replacing cons and stuff, but as a supplement to
No, I
cons.
think as a supplementary piece to a convention,
Yeah.
there's definitely something to it. I if we were going to go virtual forever, I think the cons
Mhm.
would die.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
just like you were saying with like using Stephen King as an example. Imagine if Dragon Con had a Stephen King panel. He's not there, but for the hour of the panel, he's up on the big screen,
yep,
and the moderator can take audience questions. He can answer them.
yep,
It's an option for because with like using Dragon Con again as an example, Dragon Con opened it up really to, I think, for like the week of the convention, all the video content was free. Usually you have to pay for it. You have to like sign up for it to get it. And I think after the week you still had to do that, but the week of the convention it was free. And so people who don't normally aren't able to travel to Atlanta or don't like that big of a crowd were able to experience part of what DragonCon is without being there. And I know other conventions did that as well too, where people, especially people that live in different countries who can't travel to the US just on a whim, you know,
oh yeah.
can still check out the con, from the comfort of their own home. And I really thought that was wonderful. And so yeah, as a supplemental to the cons, I can see good uses
Oh,
for
absolutely. No,
this.
no, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
I see it too. Like I virtual is here to stay. The question is going to be going forward is what the form is.
Mhm.
And speaking of here to stay, although I think it's for both of us. Yeah, man, like we could do this for hours. I think. So you definitely are a pioneer. I think a lot of people looking back, you dealt with all the ridicule. You are now, although how big you are is your personal little question.
Uh,
Fact of the matter is, people know what snow is. People know what in the wind is. People
yeah.
know who Bobby Nash is. Indie writer extraordinaire, maybe the Godfather, right? Right.
There can be only one. No.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That would be.
Actually, yeah, I say that. I'm a junior, so my dad's name is Bobby too, but that's it.
Yeah, no, no,
But
yeah, 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 yeah. But,
well,
but
I actually, it's funny the way you talk about that. I had this little epiphany that hit me recently, where somebody else was asking about something. It's like I was kind of ho humming about, this is not doing what I want to, or books aren't selling like I want. And I was reminded of the fact that there was a point, if you go back 15, 20 years, there was a point where my only goal was to find somebody to publish me. And I would have been very happy, you know. So if 20 years ago Bobby had looked at Bobby now, he would think Bobby is like made it, whereas Bobby now goes, oh God. But, so looking at it that way, I've come, I can see how far it's come to where, you know, the Bobby that was starting his writing career would look at where I'm at now and go, oh my God, that's awesome. I hope that in the next 20 years, the Bobby that's me now can look at the Bobby 20 years in the future and go, oh my God, I can't believe that's where I am. And so hopefully I can still see I'm never going to be happy with where I am because I'm always looking for the next goal and trying to keep moving forward. But I'm trying to teach myself not to lose sight of the fact that I've made these goals that I had for myself, and I met those goals, or I achieved those goals, or a publisher took a chance on me, or, you know, I got to write, you know, I got to write this, or I got to write that. You know, there's a lot of that stuff so I try not to take it for granted anymore. Because it used to, I just wouldn't think about it. And I would just, woe is me, you know, why aren't I selling better? Or, you know, why won't this publisher return my calls? Or, you know, but in the last 20 years, it has come a long way.
So I'm going to give you probably one of the coolest compliments I think I can give you. And also, I love your epiphany. I want to take it. Would you like a suggestion to make
Sure.
that epiphany a little like stronger?
Sure.
It's something I do. You ever see a Facebook post? I always write about my little victories, not the big stuff, but even the little stuff. Because the thing is, you know this especially. Big things very rarely are done with big leaps. They're done with little steps going forward each and every day. I've always tried to keep excitement doing the little things. I had a friend. When I did this interview yesterday, it's like it's adorable. It's like it does two very simple purposes. It's a reminder of how far I've come. It's also an inspiration to keep going. Right.
Yeah, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. And honestly, I think the coolest thing I can say about you, right, is this. You started when it wasn't cool. And you let whatever belief you had in yourself. I'm sure there were days that you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah, I think we all have those. Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, I think a lot of people would be very honest and say that if my career was like a Bobby Nash, I did pretty damn good. And a lot of that has to do with your own belief in yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those things I have to, you know. Yes, stubbornness has been a big, not being, you know, being unable to just quit, you know, because there have been times where I'm like, why am I putting myself through this? Because there was, you know, when I had a full-time day job and I owned my own house and I had a life, and then I was doing this, which was a full-time job, you know, there's a lot of stuff you give up to do this stuff. And there have been moments in my life where it is that, you know, why am I putting myself through this? Or, you know, is it worth putting myself through this? And the answer usually comes back to yes, because I love what I do. I love creating these stories. I love creating these characters. I love just doing all of it. But like you said, it's the little victories. Yes, being hired by a publisher is awesome. Having someone come up to me with a book to sign that they didn't buy from me, that is like huge, you know, because it took effort. That took effort. You had to, like, one, you bought the book somewhere else. You made sure you packed it. You came to the event where it was I'm at. You found me. And then, you know, you took effort. And that means that you know, that really kind of gets me right here, because it's, you put effort into that. And little things like that, or when I get fan mail, which is, you know, it's still weird to me that I have fans.
Yes.
That, you know, I try not to take that for granted, because even though it still feels weird that people, you know who I am that I don't know, you know, or sometimes it's really cool when you talk to a publisher and they know my work. It's the first time we've talked, but they
Yeah.
know my work, or that's nice. So, or that I've gotten a reputation for that I'm going to do the work, that I'm going to or all those you work hard to build your reputation. So when that stuff happens, that's always great. And or someone goes, "Oh my God, I just read this and this was fantastic and I love this," and you know so anything like that is just where people have taken effort to let you know that they like something or they bought something or they enjoyed something. That just makes me feel awesome. You know, having to signing autographs never gets old. Taking pictures with people, that one's still weird too. But people I don't know just come up. Can I get a picture with you? And I'm like, sure. And especially since I started doing the acting stuff, it happens even more now because people will recognize me from little bits and things here and there. And so it's cool. But I love what I do, and I hopefully I can keep doing it for a long time.
And I think I honestly can't think of a better way to wrap up than that, other than look at everything. I get the feeling somewhere down the road, me and you will meet face to face at some point, and we'll
Absolutely.
and we'll get to do this again and tell terrible, terrible stories about the Highlander Santa Claus.
Try yes. Maybe by then I'll be writing a Highlander thing.
That would be. I actually inspired something. AF Stewart actually put something on the internet today, and then you make an impact. I mentioned Penguin Zombie Apocalypse because it's just like one of those there's someone out there that would read that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tweet about that now, and that's my impact in the world. I think that's a really cool thing.
Yep.
But yeah, we can keep going. We can keep going for days, I think. So let's for now table this and say this. You're welcome back anytime you like, my friend. Let me know what's coming up with you. But you mentioned the anthology. So you want me to mention that here, or want to mention another book? You can do so here, or whatever you like. Okay. How can people find you? That's the other thing. How can people find you?
Okay. Well, you can find me. I'm pretty easy. I'm all over social media. I'm author Bobby Nash on Facebook. I'm at Bobby Nash on Twitter, and I'm Bobby Nash Writes on Instagram. They used to all be the same thing, but I've had hacking issues over the years. BobbyNash.com is my main website. My self-publishing imprint is Ben Books, BEN. So the website is ben-books.com. And then the Snow series actually has its own website, which is abrahamsnow.com. And so you can find me on all of those. And so as you can see, the poster in the back, In the Wind, came out a few months back. That's the first book in the series. That character's actually appeared in 2 other books, but this is his first time having his own story. And I'm working on starting book 2 now. So I'm going to release book 2 on Patreon, a chapter a week. And then when it's done, I'll release it I did the first one.
So what's your Patreon?
It's patreon.com/Bobby Nash. My tiers are pretty simple. For $1 a month, you get access to the serialized books and the various behind the scenes stuff. I do a almost daily writing blog, other bits and bobs. If you go to the $5 tier, you get a free ebook every month. So we have an ebook of the month club. And then there's a couple of higher tiers. If you get up high enough, I'll send you a paper copy of every book that comes out, that kind of thing. So that's fun. I love the Patreon stuff. I love doing the serialized books. Doing the serialized books also has that bonus of helping me write faster, because I've got to put a chapter up this week. So it actually helps me focus. Yeah, it helps me focus. And so the last few years have been fairly chaotic here, so I fell a little behind, so I'm playing catch up, and I'm about 2 projects behind. So hopefully not having the cons has allowed me to catch up a little bit. Yeah. So hopefully I can get back on track, but there's more Snow coming. There's more Sheriff Myers coming. Evil Intent, the sequel to Evil Ways, is coming. Occupied Pulp's out today. There's plenty more coming. Lots more Domino Lady. Lots more Lance Starr. So a lot of the series stuff will continue with books scattered throughout the year.
So on that note, yeah, man, thanks for coming on my show, and for everybody that's watching. This was I had a blast. This is Bobby Nash, the Godfather of indie, the Highlander.
That's right. The,
Yes,
the Highlander of writers.
that's right. There can be only one.
Now I wish I had a sword within like
No, I know.
arm's reach.
Listen, I created a gimmick for you at the very least, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The,
Well, thank
the,
you,
close,
AF.
the closest I've got is a pair of scissors.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
and Herbie.
And Herbie.
Herbie's my muse. Herbie keeps me busy.
Herbie does keep everybody busy. So
Yes.
for everybody that watched, thank you for watching this episode, Just Joshing. If you want to support me, my stream is twitch.tv/justjoshingpodcast. Hit the follow button, right? My YouTube channel is Joshua Pantellaresco. Hit like and subscribe there. I promise to get back on that channel when I finish updating the script. Like YouTube just changed their whole like the look display, so I gotta play with that this weekend. To the rest, stay inspired, keep shining in the dark. I have another great guest tomorrow night. It's gonna be really, as this really cool week continues. Bobby, thanks very much. To everybody else,
Pleasure.
have a fantastic night. I will see you tomorrow. All right.
All right.
Done and